Hey guys, finally we made it back to the park. Finally I will be able to talk about my experiences at the rainbow gathering. And I must say I was procrastinating on this video a little bit because I feel like there was so much stuff going on at the rainbow gathering that I feel like it would almost do it a disservice to try to put everything in just one video. So it'll probably be quite a long video, but you can skip through it, you can come back to it anytime you want. I just want to make it as completely as possible and hopefully inspire you to go to a rainbow gathering yourself, right? So to start off, what is the rainbow gathering? The rainbow gathering is basically a group of people who decide to come together in nature and live as a micro society, very much in tune with nature. And it's a movement that originally started in Colorado 50 years ago, if I remember correctly, and it was basically a way for people to connect on a different level outside the normal society, you know, the hustle and bustle of the city life, the feeling disconnected with nature. And so it's a bunch of hippies that come together and walk barefoot in the nature, and there's a lot of nudity, there's a lot of ritual, there's a lot of slow living. It's really slow living, and it's incredibly interesting to experience this, right? And so I got recommended to go there by a few people that are watching my YouTube videos. So a few of you guys actually told me when you saw that I was here in Mexico to go to the world gathering in Palenque. So there is different gatherings around the world. Every month there is a different country where there is gatherings being held. And the world gathering is once a year, if I remember correctly, and this year it was in Palenque, Mexico. So this is like considered the biggest gathering every year, the world gathering, and they move around and they hold like a vision council, which is basically just a circle of people discussing where the next gathering will be held. And so this year it was in Mexico. Next year is going to be in Colorado, but there's also European gatherings. There might be actually a gathering in your country as well, so definitely make sure you check it out. You can just do some Google searches, or you can become a member of the Facebook groups. The rainbow gathering doesn't really have a website, so you will have to dig a little and find the information yourself. That is exactly how I did it, and a few people send me invite links to the group chats on Telegram and WhatsApp, and that's kind of like how you roll into the whole thing. Now, when I left for the rainbow gathering from Cancun, I booked a bus together with a fellow traveler that I met in the group chat. Janine was her name, and so we booked a bus at 5 p.m. in the evening. And when we arrived at the bus station, I was like I'm always like so close to being late. I was there maybe like 4:55 or something, but it's Mexico, you know, so people take their time. And we go onto the bus, and after sitting there for like 20 minutes, they tell us, oh, you need to get off the bus and take another one. This one is not going to Palenque. And we're like, okay, well, whatever. So we get off the bus, we go on the other one, and then we're like, let's hope this one takes us to our desired destination. I'm like, is this going to Palenque? Are you sure? And the driver's like, I think so, probably. I'm like, probably? Okay, well, that's what it's gonna be, you know, it's a real adventure. So anyways, we go on the bus. It's like a 12-hour bus ride or something. We were sitting on the bus just talking, and it's freezing cold on the bus, okay? The buses here in Mexico, I don't know what it is that they do, but they put the air conditioning maximum level and it's just freezing cold. So make sure if you ever travel through Mexico with the bus, you have a nice blanket to keep you warm. Luckily, I went to buy a sleeping bag at Walmart to, you know, to sleep at the rainbow gathering. It's you actually sleep in tents. You can build your own tent, you can bring a tent. So I brought a tent and a sleeping bag. So luckily I had the sleeping bag to sit on the bus because it was freezing cold. And then halfway the trip, or like 3/4 in the trip, all of a sudden the bus just stops. So yeah guys, it's 6 in the morning, the bus is there, it broke down, so the motor doesn't work anymore. So I watched the sunrise, you can see the beautiful glow on my face. There is just some kind of branch, and somewhere in the middle of the jungle kind of, so I'm sure they will repair the bus at some point, or they'll bring a new one, we'll see. And then we can head to the actual location, because this is supposed to be the rainbow gathering, right? So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. I'll see you guys soon. And we're like, what's going on? And then apparently the gas was finished or whatever, and the gas station only opened at 7 a.m. and it was like 6 a.m. in the morning. And so like in Belgium where I live, there would be like an emergency whatever, and people would actually like make sure that we get the gasoline and we can move ahead with the travels. But here in Mexico they're like, no, it's until 7, it only opens at 7 a.m. so you will have to wait until 7 a.m. and people got really angry and upset, and some of the Mexicans actually even wanted to destroy the bus. Yes, I'm here with Emilio. He's together with me on the bus, and since we were stopping, he told me what's going on, and apparently there is something with the gas tank and they need more diesel to make the bus work, but the gas station only opens at 7 p.m. and it's 6:30 now. So in Mexico you just gotta wait half an hour, you know. It's not like you call emergency and they fix your problem. It's like, no, we open at 7 and then we go. So they're going to grab diesel now and then we can drive.
Funny part, people want to fire up the bus.
They want, oh yeah. So he told me that the Mexicans, they got really angry and upset about this problem and they wanted to fuck up the bus. But then he was like, well, how are we gonna get to the destination if the only means of transportation is like fucked up?
So take a taxi or in the middle of nowhere.
So yeah, the people from the south of Mexico, they can turn a little bit violent sometimes when they get angry. So luckily they didn't do anything to the bus and we're gonna make it. So I'll see you guys soon. Peace. It was a mess. It was really a mess, but a very interesting experience. I very much, I don't know, enjoyed the whole thrill of the adventure. And I thought it was funny. It was a cool way to, I don't know, introduce me to this spontaneous traveling through Mexico. Sun is rising. Almost 10 more minutes until they bring the diesel. I hope. It's probably going to be more like 30 minutes, but whatever.
Hola.
Amigos!
Hola.
Woo! Just waiting for the bus. Doing some yoga stretches while they're finally putting in the diesel. They fixed it. Time to get going. And so eventually we made it to the rainbow gathering, and then when you go there, you kind of go through a welcome ceremony. So you enter the welcome tent, and there they kind of explain you a little bit about what it's about, what are the values that people embody, and you get a small introduction, right? So the guy starts talking about what rainbow gathering actually is. It's a coming home for people who are looking for connection and belonging and to live closer to nature. And the number one value that people embody at the rainbow gatherings is respect. So respect for each other, respect for nature, respect for everything that is surrounding us, basically. Okay, the people, the nature, the food, everything we show respect, and we treat people with respect, we treat ourselves with respect, and we treat the environment with respect, right? Because the event was held at a private property in the jungle. A person who owns coconut and palm tree ranch or plantage, I don't know how you say this, and so he allowed us to be on his land, and so it was important to make sure that we treated everything with respect. And the moment we came into this welcome tent, they announced welcome home. There is hugs, people give hugs, they serve a little bit of food, and immediately you have this kind of sense of, how would I say, connection. Let's say connection, because in today's society people just live like past each other. We move past each other. We don't really acknowledge each other. We don't really show respect. We don't really show intimacy, contact, especially with the COVID now, okay, with the pandemic. The social distancing really makes people afraid to interact more closely. Okay, there's more distance, don't come too close, especially when I don't know you. We don't make bodily contact. But there, immediately, there was a lot of contact, and it felt great. honestly, it felt amazing to be surrounded by people who value closeness, bodily closeness, hugs, eye gazes. The energy there was very wholesome. And after the introduction, we had a little bit of food, we had a little bit of singing, and we walked past the welcome tent, and we enter the location. And so everyone I passed makes very deep and intense eye contact, and it's so genuine, so warm, so loving, so compassionate. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I felt like I missed this for such a long time in my life. It was so beautiful to look someone in the eye and they smile and they say so many things without actually saying anything. It's an incredible experience, incredibly profound experience, because we miss it in our day-to-day lives. I totally miss this when I live in normal society. You don't have that, or people judge it or feel uncomfortable. When you hold eye contact with a stranger in the streets, they start to feel uncomfortable, or you start to feel uncomfortable, because you kind of feel this social judgment that it's not normal to do that, all right? But there, it's common business. Everybody does it, right? And so at first I started to explore a little bit. I put up my tent. My host was so kind to borrow me his tent. It was a 6-person tent, so it was massive. I could even stand up in the tent, so it was quite interesting to just have a tent for myself. But I knew that people would probably end up sleeping in my tent at some point, because it's a sharing micro society. People share, people borrow things to one another. There's workshops, there is people cooking, there's people building the camp. So a great saying in the gathering is, when you see a job, then it's yours. So if you see work, then it's your job to do the work. Nobody is going to expect you to do it, but people do this just automatically, intrinsically, because you know you're functioning in this small community, and wherever there's work, you can take up that work. Now, the first few days, I must say, I was really having a hard time adapting, because it's such a huge shift from normal busy hustle bustle city life to living in the jungle with, it was 400 or 500 strangers you don't know, that walk barefoot or walk completely naked, lots of dreadlocks, lots of alternative clothing, lots of music and djembe drums and rituals and strange, I don't know, energies and behaviors and patterns. Adjusting to that was really difficult, and I felt very lonely in the beginning. I felt very alone. It was as if I was an outsider. I didn't belong in this setting, because I've never experienced it. Well, I have slightly in my education in Steiner school. It's like Waldorf school, so we have similar kind of values there, you know, respect for one another, taking care of the nature, singing around the campfire, stuff like that. So it was not completely foreign to me, but I just felt like I really don't fit in, and everything was so new, and I had to explore the campsite, and I didn't really understand how things worked. Guys, I'm laying here in the hammock in the nature at the Rainbow Gathering, and it's quite the experience. I have a lot to talk about, but being here in the nature, laying in the hammock near the water, I'm above the water. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm above the water, and it's really beautiful. So it's a really unique experience, and yeah, I can only recommend this to those of you who are interested in a festival with a lot of like-minded alternative people. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. But slowly I started to gain a little bit more awareness of how you're supposed to, you know, conduct yourself in this environment. But still, I wasn't able to fully settle in. I felt really isolated somehow, and I was actually seriously considering leaving after 2-3 days. I felt like, nope, this is not for me. I gave it a shot. I want to go, I want to leave, and this is not my place, and I have to accept that, and I will just go. But then, the morning I was about to leave, I go to the campfire. So in the center of the campsite, there is a fire that is always burning. It's kind of like the heart of the gathering. It's the heart of the gathering. In the kitchen, people cooking, people actually like volunteering to cook, to prepare, it's all donation based. So people actually donate money after the food circle, which is a gathering of people gathering around the central fire to eat the food. And then after the food, they go around with a hat and you can donate money, and with that money people buy more food, and then other people prepare the food. And so it's a whole community of people helping each other and donating to serve everyone. It's a very beautiful concept, and in small scales apparently it works quite well. So the fire is the heart of the gathering, and then the kitchen is the stomach of the gathering. That's how they kind of like describe it, right? Where you nourish everyone, the stomach nourishing, and the fire, the heart, is where the ritual happens, the chanting, the bonding, the connecting, the storytelling. And so I was literally about to pack my stuff 3 days after arriving, and I walked past the fire to drop off some stuff. I can't remember exactly why I was there, but for some reason I was there. And around the fire there's a few people just still sitting. It was after the full moon ceremony, so it was beautiful ceremony, full moon, but it was also really chaotic because there were so many people, right? Usually around full moon there is a ceremony, a cacao ceremony in this case, where you cook, where you prepare fresh cacao without sugar. It's you should look it up, Cacao Ceremony. It's kind of like a sacred ritual that has been used in the Mayan cultures here in Latin America, and it's a cleansing ritual to really get in touch with all sorts of spirits and your inner being, and it's really beautiful thing. So you should look it up, Cacao Ceremony. So there was a big cacao ceremony, and there was a lot of people because people know that around full moon there is, you know, this interesting ceremony. It also has spiritual significance, etc. So it was very chaotic, very overwhelming, and as I'm a highly sensitive person, it was, you know, very chaotic for me, very intense, and I couldn't really process everything properly. It was too overwhelming, so I wanted to escape it. I felt uncomfortable. I wanted to escape this sense of chaos, this sense of not belonging there, this sense of confusion. I really wanted to get away from that. But so I passed a fire, and a face looks at me and it lights up, starts smiling, big eyes. I'm like, huh? And the person, he's like waving at me, and he gets up and he's like so excited and runs towards me, and I'm like, wait, Elias, is that you? And Elias is a friend of mine that I met in Ghent a few years back even. And he was like, yes, I was hoping to see you here, man. I saw your YouTube video that you were going to the Rainbow Gathering, and I immediately booked a bus here, and so I was hoping to run into you at some point, and now we do, so I'm so glad that you're here. I'm like, oh my god, that's so interesting, man. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. That's great. Let's go for a walk. And so we go for a walk, and we kind of like connect really fast. And I told him that actually I don't really feel good here. I want to leave. I feel alone. And as we were talking, he kind of mentions that, you know, in my life, whenever I felt resistance against something, that's usually the sign that there is an opportunity for growth. And I push against it and I overcome the resistance. And I realized that's what was happening to me. I felt resistance. I was afraid to continue to feel lonely. I was afraid to skip the gym. I am really addicted to exercise, and I was so afraid to lose my gains or to lose my routine, or I was so afraid to let go of my old life, okay, my old beliefs, my old routines, that I was so stuck in. I was so afraid to let it go, and that was the resistance I was feeling. And as he was talking about this and giving some personal examples, I started to reflect on this for myself, and I realized that it's true. I feel the resistance, and when I look back on my life, every time I pushed through that resistance, that was when the most growth happened. And I really opened up to him about feeling so alone and being so scared to let go of my older self and to, you know, to move past this and to give it a shot. And by doing that, I kind of accepted this whole situation, and I told him, you know what, man, you really convinced me to stay one more day. Let's do it. And he was so happy to hear that I made that decision, and I felt so happy and relieved that I made that decision. And so the first thing we did was like we gave each other a hug and we go all in, right? Like we take off all our clothes, nothing, like no shoes, nothing, because before that I was still wearing my clothes, I was still wearing my shoes, I was not walking barefoot because I felt uncomfortable, uneasy to let it go, to fully immerse myself in the experience. I was kind of like protecting myself a little bit to not feel embarrassed perhaps, or to not have to judge myself. But after making that decision, I fully committed, and we just threw out all our clothes, and the first thing we did is we walked through the whole campsite just butt naked. Okay, we started exploring the river. There's a small river there. We start to climb in the river. We're like little kids, you know, exploring the nature, just being free, completely naked. And it was so interesting because I couldn't remember the last time I did that, walking naked in nature with a friend, you know. It's so looked down upon in today's society. Like you can't just walk naked in the park in a city, that you just can't do that, right? But there in the safe environment you can. And that was very, very interesting because you don't have to judge that, and it doesn't mean that you're romantically involved with a man if you're walking butt naked through the nature. No, it can be just an expression of your freedom and being closer to nature, because our clothes are literally a barrier between ourselves and the outer world. And taking off your clothes, walking barefoot on the earth, making contact with the earth, it has such a profound and healing effect on the psyche. And so I got so excited, so exhilarated, so joyful, like a little kid just walking around, doing all these things in nature, in the river, just walking around, bouncing around and exploring the things. And everyone we met, we smile. And Elias is such an abundant person, right? He is so joyful, so playful, so compassionate. He did a 10-day Vipassana retreat before this, which is just 10 days of silent meditation. And he got so much self-love out of that, so much self-awareness. And he was so inspiring to me. And a few months back, when I was still in Budapest, I attended a talk by a guy who mentions the power of finding a mentor. But your mentor appears when the student is ready, right? And at that moment I realized that I just ran into my mentor, and I would have never expected a 21-year-old, because he's 21-year-old, guys, to be my mentor in that moment. I was so amazed, and I was humbled by that fact. Like, I realized that I would have never thought that a 21-year-old guy from Belgium would become my mentor in this space. But I was grateful and thankful, and I was so inspired by his energy and his attitude and his approach, and it rubbed off on me. I kind of adopted some of his behaviors, some of his mindsets, and we talked, and I shared a lot of the shame that I feel and the things that I did in my life that I'm not proud of. And it felt so good to connect with another human being on such an intimate level, because it's something that I feel like I really missed in my life. Especially since my last breakup, I never really had someone that I could confide in like that. And being open, being vulnerable, truly vulnerable with someone, that is one of the best ways to connect, okay? And you know, as you're traveling, you can meet people and strangers, and you talk and you share a little bit of experiences together, but the real deal is going deep, is being vulnerable, is being honest, okay? Elias really showed me that it's okay to be completely honest, like blatantly honest, and own it, okay? I feel ashamed to admit that I used to be this resentful nice guy with ulterior motives. I was not showing my true intent with girls, for example. I was trying to hide it from them because I was afraid that they would judge me. Okay, this is something I was ashamed about, and talking to him about this, really connecting, opening up, admitting that I'm a vulnerable person who is not perfect. Doing that in this setting was very, very healing, and it really made me feel so grateful and kind and loving, compassionate, not only towards myself but towards other people who were there. And everybody at the gathering comes there at a certain phase in their journey, and it's so inspiring to meet all these people at their different stages in their journey. You know, there were girls that were figuring out their lives, there were families, there were older men, there were younger men, and to be in this safe space where respect is the number one value is so healing, right? And so every day I will describe how my day looked, because it's very simple in a way, but also wonderfully, how would I say, meaningful, right? So I woke up, I went for a little stretch, I went for a little walk, I went for a bath in the river. So I was just washing myself in the river, no shower. It was kind of cold, but very nice, you know, just go bare naked in the river and just clean yourself in the river. Incredibly healing experience, so nice to hear, you know, the water and the insects and the wind, the trees, no music, just nature sounds, hearing the water on the stones, and it's so incredibly healing. It's so profound to just take a bath in the river, in nature, butt naked. It's amazing. After that, I usually do a short meditation in nature, amazing experience. Then some kind of bodily movements. I ran into a guy who was doing handstands somewhere that I saw him do it, and I got really interested, and I just asked him like, hey man, would you like to teach me how to do this? And that is the beauty of the Rainbow Gathering. You can ask anyone to teach you or to help you with something, and they will most likely say yes, and if not, they will very respectfully decline, which was awesome. And so he was very willing to help me and teach me handstands. So I was practicing handstands. He was a fantastic teacher. His name was Sammy. Really, really down to earth, respectful guy. And he taught me how to do basic handstand. And then he also had rings, like the gymnastic rings, and he taught me my first ring muscle up, which was something that I have been dying to learn for such a long time, but I never got to it because I got so caught up in the insignificances of life, right? The daily things, and I never set aside the time to actually practice. But there, what else do? You know, you don't have any obligations, or you don't need to perform or anything, right? And so we finally had the time to practice, and he was a great teacher. And so it was very inspiring for me to spend time with a person who spent so much of his life learning these skills, the bodily skills. And that inspired me to practice every day. From then onwards, I was practicing handstand butt naked in the main square, just like, you know, where people usually do yoga. I was doing my handstands there butt naked. It was incredible. Like, it's so freeing, and the sun is shining and you're sweating, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's so cool to do this because it's so out of the ordinary. And so after doing the exercise, for example, I would go and take another bath in the river, and then I would help in the kitchen, you know, cut vegetables, boil water, whatever it may be. Wherever people need help, you can offer your help. That's a beautiful thing. There's always something to do, and you can always make yourself useful, and that's a beautiful experience, to feel useful, you know. Serving others, it's a really profound experience. And I feel like in our day-to-day lives, perhaps we don't spend enough time serving others, you know, simply helping to cook, or simply helping to create, I don't know, art together, or supporting one another. Serving is very, very meaningful and incredibly fulfilling. And so it's nice to be cooking for 400 or 500 people, cooking food for the people, putting your love and your attention into this food, really making it a healing nourishment for everyone. It's a really beautiful experience, and you can talk with the people as you're cooking, and everybody is there just sharing their love and their excitement for the food that is to come. And people treat it with a lot of respect, right? And it's vegan food, so there's no meat, only vegetables and organic ingredients, which was also very interesting because I usually eat quite a lot of animal products, but now I didn't because the rainbow gathering. And I also was a little bit afraid of, not getting in enough protein and blah blah blah, but I needed to let go of that. I needed to let go of this identification with this diet that I have been consuming for such a long time. I never tried vegan food for longer than 1 or 2 days, and now I was only eating vegan food. Well, in the beginning I have to say I was fasting most of the time because I wanted to take the opportunity to cleanse myself a little bit, and I'm quite addicted to food and unhealthy food, like really addicted actually, also something that I'm quite ashamed talking about. But this was an opportunity for me to fast and to clean my system, and it felt amazing to not eat and to just serve, to prepare food and serve the food for other people without actually consuming it myself. It was a way to give my energy, to give my compassion, my love, and to cleanse myself in a way, to detox from all the unhealthy food that I have been eating while I was in the city, right? So after the food, well, the food is being prepared, so people scream "a comer" when people need help in the kitchen. They scream it 2 times, and then the 3rd time they scream "a comer ahora," and that means food now. So then everybody gathers around the fire, the central fire, the heart. Everybody gathers there. They bring the food, you carry the food. It's like big pots, very heavy, so you carry the food. I remember the first day when Elias arrived, we carried the food butt naked, so we were carrying the pots. It was amazing. And so people gather around the fire, and then there is rituals. So we hold hands, we sing songs, rainbow songs. Gracias por la familia, gracias por tu comida. Like songs like these. Every little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. Like songs like this. It's really cool to sing these happy, nourishing songs with so many people holding hands. And you hold the hands like this, so you keep this on the bottom and then this on the top, so you actually like pass the energy through, and it feels great to be so together and to treat the food with respect, to really treat it with respect, and to understand the significance of food and to take it seriously and to treat it with the respect it deserves, because food is it's not self-evident. It requires work to gather it, it requires work to prepare it, to bring it, to serve it. And so then we end the singing circle with an om, om, and then people gather around the pots, a few people who will serve the food, and these people first serve the food and after that they can eat. And so I served a few times, and it's very fulfilling task because you serve the food and people are so grateful, right? They thank you for serving, thank you so much for serving, and then I'm always smiling, and I love to provide a service to people. I'm like, thank you for eating, thank you for being here with me, thank you for being here in general, I love you, I appreciate you. And it's a beautiful thing to give appreciation, to share love and kindness and compassion and respect with other human beings in such a safe, beautiful environment. It's really healing and nourishing. And so after the food there is afternoon workshops, lots of different things: natural first aid, tantra, voice projection, like how to use your voice to create harmonics, communication, conscious communication, plant medicine, psychedelics, dancing class. There's so many different workshops, and whoever wants to share their knowledge, they can. That's the beautiful thing. If you feel like you have to share something, you can organize a workshop and announce it at the food circle, and then people can come and show up, and everybody shares their knowledge for free. People just come there and want to give to the community. It's beautiful, like so much sharing, so much common goals, and so much, like it's so beautiful, like the community, the micro society. It's incredible to experience it on such a profound level. And so you can take workshops. I took a few tantra workshops, which are really profound ways to connect. Okay, lots of eye gazing, touch, boundary setting, intimacy, sexuality, very interesting topics. And in the beginning I felt a little bit uncomfortable because I kind of wanted to, do the workshops with girls and with women and feel this sexual interaction with them. But for some reason, I ended up practicing with men most of the time. And I came to understand that whatever happens for a reason. And there was lessons contained in the fact that I was practicing these exercises with men rather than women, because probably I'm not ready yet to integrate this energy for myself with the opposite sex. And this was a huge lesson for me, and I struggled with it a little bit. But you can then talk to people about this, and I was able to verbalize my desire to connect with the girls there, but my inability to do so, my fear, my shame around my desires, my sexuality. And especially in the men's circles, so there's also men's circles where men gather and they can share whatever is on their minds in a safe space without any women being there. The things that men talk about are gut-wrenching, they are painful, but they are also incredibly beautiful and brave. So many men, they talked about how they were raised in families without a father figure, and they were struggling with women, and they were struggling with porn addiction, and they were struggling with so many things and so many relatable topics that a lot of us are all struggling with. And being able to share that openly and have people acknowledge that pain, that shame, have people understand what you're going through is so incredibly healing. So there is workshops and gatherings and tasks for everyone all the time, and you can pick whatever works for you. And it felt great to be in service. I felt so good about myself to be able to be useful in this community. And at first I felt a little bit lower on the societal hierarchy or something. You know, there's these macho men who there's a lot of macho behavior in it as well. There's a dark side to it as well, you know, people just going there to hook up and to gain status and to have power, you know. This is the dark side, and it's in each and every one of us, right? But the thing in this kind of close community, people get called out on this stuff faster, and so you can't really, how would I say, you will be held accountable. And I had a little confrontation with a guy, for example, who was jealous of the fact that I got a little bit more food. And I told him, yeah, it's because I'm serving. And he was like, yeah, but that doesn't make you eligible to get more food. And we got in a little bit of a fight. And I told him, not like actual fighting, but like a discussion, an argument where two egos were like clashing, right? And so I told him, like, it's okay, man, it's okay, brother, I love you, compassion. And he was like, yes, your words say this, but your heart feels different. And it was so, how would I say, like, blatantly honest. And he was right. And afterwards I went talk to him, and I told him that, yeah, man, you're right. I was feeling annoyed with the things you said, and I wanted to come talk to you about this. And it was like, you're a real warrior. I appreciate you taking the time to admit this and to talk to me about this, because most people just run away or they never mention it again, and they just think they were right and the other person was wrong. And so you learn these small little interactions which are more honest, more open. In normal society there's a lot more covering up, a lot more hypocrisy. And yes, there's a lot of hypocrisy in the rainbow gatherings as well. I saw that, and within myself as well too. But it calls for more honesty, more openness, and the safe environment really makes it easier to be more open, to be more honest. So there's an interesting story that I would like to share also that shows the beauty or the significance of these synchronicities lining up as you go about your day or your life, right? So in the morning, I woke up one morning and my neighbors mentioned that there was a lady who hurt her foot, who wasn't able to walk, and so she would need support carrying her to the main road to take her to the city. And I was talking with my neighbors and I told them, yeah, sure, if I'm around, I would love to help. And so feel free to call upon my help, and I will make sure that I support her on her journey. And then as the day progressed, I felt like I would love to serve the food. Now, I returned back to my tent, and the lady was sitting in her tent, and I passed her by her tent, and I talked a little bit with her, and I knew that if I would ask her if she needed help, that she would tell me yes. And I kind of didn't want to ask her because I wanted to serve the food and not help carry her to the main road. But somehow I still did. I asked her like, hey, do you need help? And she said, yes, in a few minutes you'll probably move to the main road, so I would appreciate a few strong men to help carry me. And inside myself I was like, I want to serve the food, but I don't want to be hypocrite and just like deny her cry for help or something. So as I was walking to my tent, I was really thinking that, okay, should I just like disappear? Because you can, you know, in the rainbow gathering, when you say something, I'll be there in 5 minutes, it can end up being 3 hours, you know, because you don't use your phone, there's no communication, so you can run into stuff, and people know that if you say 5 minutes, it can turn into 3, 4, 5 hours, or even the next day, right? So I could easily escape this faith in a way, but I didn't. I tuned in with myself. I'm like, no, hell no, I need to help her. So I decided to help carry her, and so we carry her, me and another guy carry her to the main road. And as we were walking through the nature, I was walking barefoot, I stepped my foot on a thorn. So there's a thorn in my foot now, which is quite painful. And so in the end I told her that, okay, now I would really need to go because I want to take out this thorn because it's very, very painful. And so she was like so grateful and thankful that I helped carry her to the main road, and then she wished me blessings to take out the thorn. So I go back to my neighbors, and I know that he has a pincette, you know, a tweezer, that's what it's called. I learned this at the rainbow gathering. I didn't know it was called like this, a tweezer. And so I borrowed his tweezer to go take out the thorn, but I needed to wash my feet because they were so dirty with a lot of mud, right? So I go to the river with this tweezer, and as I want to go into the water to wash my foot, there is another group of people carrying like wheelbarrow with lots of water, so it's super heavy, right? And they want to cross the river, so there's a lot of stones in the river, it's difficult. So I again proposed, hey, do you need help? And they were like, yes, that would be great to help us cross the river. And so I put the tweezer in a bucket that I was carrying, and with my other hand I helped move the wheelbarrow across the river. And subconsciously I kind of heard something falling in the water, but I didn't really pay attention to it. And so I continue carrying the wheelbarrow, and then when we finally cross the river and they move onwards, I look into my bucket and I can't find the tweezer. I'm like, no, I lost the tweezer somewhere here. I will never be able to find it. But I was like, okay, who knows, maybe, you know. So I started looking around, but I'm standing up. And at some point, I can't find it, obviously. I'm like, oh man, I'll never find it. Like, you know, my ex-girlfriend used to be super good at this stuff. Like, whenever we dropped something on the floor, I totally lost like faith in ever finding it back. She was like, after 5 minutes, here it is. I'm like, oh man, how do you do this? But I was like, well, now she's not here, so I will have to do it myself, right? So at some point I decided, okay, let's take it a little bit more seriously. So I squat down and I start looking more closely, and a young girl comes towards me, and she wants to cross the river, and she sees me squatting down, and she asks me, hey, are you looking for something? And I'm like, yes, actually I am. And she's like, what are you looking for? I'm like, a tweezer. And she's like, what color does it have? I'm like, a metal tweezer, just a small Swiss knife tweezer. And she's like, oh gosh, that's going to be very difficult. I'm like, I know. I'm like freaking out because it's not mine, right? And she's like, well, okay, I hope you'll find it. And so she squats down and she starts cleaning her food bucket, her food cup. She starts cleaning, and she's like, is this it? And she picks it out of the water and she takes a fucking tweezer. I'm like, oh my, I can't believe it, man. Like, oh my god, I was so freaking happy that she found. Like, what are the odds in the water between the stones, and she freaking finds a tweezer. I'm like, you can't believe how happy I am right now. I was just literally like jumping around. I gave her like this big hug. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so happy because they were not mine, and I was so stressed the fuck out that I would not find it again. And she was like, I'm so happy I found it. Here you go. I'm like, thank you so much. And that was just such a beautiful kind of like series of things that happened that led to this profound experience of, you know, not wanting to do something, then doing it, then accepting that I hurt myself, then trying to solve this problem, then losing the tweezer, then accepting that I lost it, then kind of holding on to, I really want to find it, and then coming across this person who eventually found the tweezer, and I was like so goddamn excited about it. I wanted to share it with all my friends. I was like, this is amazing. Like this whole series of events happening and lining up, it was such a beautiful, profound experience. So I felt like I wanted to share that really quickly with you guys here as well. And then the last one that I wanted to share is that when you're in the jungle, and here in Mexico, sometimes there's tropical rains. So a shitload of rain, a lot of rain. And what I came to find out is that the tents here in Mexico apparently are not waterproof. So people usually make a tarp above their tents so they actually don't get wet. But I didn't do that because I expected my tent to be waterproof, which it was not, unfortunately. So as I went to bed one night, I go to sleep, and a few hours later I wake up and there's like 3 other people in my tent, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, how did that happen? Because one of my friends who was staying with me apparently invited a few people, and I was like, okay, well, that's what it's gonna be, you know. I was like, you could have told me, but he was like, yeah, but you were already asleep, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, fine, it doesn't matter, because what was actually happening is that there was literally rain pouring from the ceiling on top of my face. So everything was slowly starting to get soaked, like soaking wet. It was raining outside like crazy, and the tent became like a submarine, you know. I was laying there on my mattress and I was just completely still, because every time I moved there was water just running into my pants, and the other people were just, you know, trying to hide from the rain, like trying to keep their stuff dry, but there was no way we could, you know. Outside was raining. What do you do? I was just laying there, and it's like, it's so uncomfortable, like it's so incredibly uncomfortable, but at the same time I was thinking to myself, it's just temporary discomfort, okay? Tomorrow or the day after we can take out everything and we can dry it. Hopefully nothing gets destroyed. Let's just sit through this, because what can you do? You can't go somewhere because it's pouring, you know. If you go outside you get drenched, right? So we were just there, and one of the tent mates, a girl who was also sleeping in the tent, she was like, oh, what are we gonna do? And she starts like opening up a package of Oreo cookies, and she starts eating Oreo cookies because she was so stressed. It was hilarious, but it was like the tent became a submarine. Literally, like I could feel the water rising in the tent. It was horrible, and just laying there for like 5-6 hours, just getting drenched, like slowly, you know, slowly getting drenched, and you can't do anything about it. Right? It was really interesting to experience this discomfort, this intense discomfort. And I was really hoping to just, you know, I was wishing that I was back home in my warm bed, dry, with blankets, and not having to worry about this. Guys, so just woke up. It was a rainstorm this morning, well, this night actually. This is what the tents look like. We have our little friend. You can see the desperation on his face. And yeah, it's literally just a pool. Apparently these things are not waterproof, and it's just one big mess. The whole place is completely wrecked. So yeah, but now I'm very much invested, and we'll solve this problem, make everything dry, and make it work. Eventually, you know, the sun rose again and the rain stopped pouring only 24 hours later, but heck, eventually, you know, everything gets dry again. And then I went to find a tarp, and we installed a beautiful tarp above the tent, and from then onwards we didn't get wet anymore. Look at these bites, boys. It's just insane. It's so itchy, like it's ridiculous. But that's what you get when you're living in the jungle like this. So it was a profound experience to just get drenched in a tent, like completely drenched. And the interesting thing is, before that, I lost my headset, my Bluetooth headset. I lost it. I didn't know where it was, and I thought somebody stole it out of my backpack because the zippers were open when I didn't leave them open, or at least I thought I didn't leave them open. So I was like, god damn it, that's sad that these got stolen. And my friend was like, no, they didn't get stolen. You probably kind of like hid them somewhere. You can't remember where you put them, and they can't be stolen. Nobody would steal them, and if they did, then they probably must have really needed them. And so I was just a little bit bummed out, but also I accepted it. It's just material stuff. You can replace it anyways. But after the rain, okay, my backpack was filled, like literally filled with water. There was like a bottom of water inside my backpack. And so I took it outside and I turned it upside down, and the water flushes out, and then all of a sudden there's this black box with my Bluetooth headset in it. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. Like, this had to happen, right? Because of the rain in my backpack, I had to turn it upside down. I would have never done that if it were not soaked. And then because of doing that, I found my headset again. So it was again this like positive embedded in the negative, or this positive embedded in the quote-unquote negative, because it wasn't really negative. It was just really, 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 really uncomfortable. But so there was a whole bunch of these experiences where it felt like something negative is happening, but actually it's something really positive. And the discomfort was always simply temporary, and it made me grow so much each time I overcame the resistance, each time I went through it. And meeting Elias that day I decided to leave absolutely changed the game for me. And I was so grateful that afterwards I was able to fully embrace it, to fully let go of the loneliness, to let go of the resistance, to let go of all these judgments that I had surrounding myself and the other people who were there. And I was really able to fully immerse myself in the experience. And it, honestly, I feel nostalgic. I literally feel nostalgic. When I came back to Babylon, that's how they call it, I felt this immediate disconnect again, and I longed again for these people. I longed again for this connection, this eye contact, these hugs, this compassion, this kindness. And so I'm really looking forward to going to another rainbow gathering very, very soon. There is going to be the European Rainbow Gathering in Hungary, actually, which is fantastic. I'm so excited to attend that one as well. And so I can only share my appreciation for everyone who was involved in this beautiful project, and I'm so grateful that I discovered this type of living. It's a really different type of living, very much slower, very much in touch with each other and with the nature. And it really made me realize how disconnected I have been living my life, disconnected from other people, disconnected from nature, disconnected from myself. And spending this time with all these wonderfully compassionate, respectful people in nature without boundaries, okay? Yes, there is boundaries, of course, personal boundaries and boundaries regarding respect, etc., but more like without the boundaries of trying to contain nature. It's more like living in harmony with nature and being respectful towards what Mother Nature is giving us, Pachamama, that's how they call it, and the rituals surrounding the food and the service and everybody working together. It's just such a different way of living, and I feel nostalgic. Towards it, and my heart is filled with joy and compassion when I think back, and I feel so thankful that I was able to have the experience. So it was a very long video today. I felt like sharing a lot. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you learned something from this. It has been a profound experience for me to go through these different stages and to let go of my old beliefs, my old routines, and I am aiming to take this wisdom with me, and I'm very much looking forward to attending more rainbow gatherings in the future. So thank you so much for your attention. If you made it until this point, you are a real OG, like a real OG, and I really appreciate your time and your attention and your kindness and your appreciation. And I want to thank you for being here with me, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, Rainbow.